opening hook, the illusion of choice. Every day, you make hundreds of food choices. What to eat, when to eat, how much to eat. You believe these decisions are yours, but what if they are not? What if the foods surrounding you are quietly shaping your thoughts, your cravings, your behavior? What if modern food has learned how to control the human brain? This is not about willpower. This is not about discipline. This is about biology, and the science is disturbing. The rise of ultra-processed food. 50 years ago, food looked different. Meals were cooked. Ingredients were recognizable. Time existed between hunger and eating. Today, food is instant, portable, hyper-flavored. Ultra-processed foods now make up over 60% of calories in the American diet. This is not coincidence. It is a system designed for profit, not health. What makes food ultra-processed? Ultra-processed foods are not simply junk food. They are industrial formulations, built from refined starches, added sugars, industrial seed oils, artificial flavors, chemical emulsifiers, ingredients you would never find in a home kitchen. These foods are engineered. Every crunch, every melt, every aftertaste. Nothing is accidental. The brain enters first. Food does not hit the stomach first. It hits the brain. Within seconds of eating ultra-processed food, your brain releases dopamine. Dopamine is not pleasure. It is motivation. It tells your brain, this is important. Do this again. Remember this feeling. Ultra-processed foods exploit the system perfectly. Dopamine overload. Natural foods release dopamine slowly. Ultra-processed foods release it fast and intensely. This overwhelms the reward system. Over time, the brain adapts. The same food gives less reward, so you eat more. This is the same neurological pattern seen in addiction. Not because food is a drug, but because the brain responds the same way. Why you can't stop at one. Ultra-processed foods are designed to defeat fullness. They lack fiber, they digest too quickly, they bypass natural satiety signals. Your stomach says enough, but your brain says more, and the brain always wins. The bliss point. Food scientists use a concept called the bliss point, the exact combination of sugar, fat, and salt that creates maximum pleasure. 1% more sugar, too sweet. 1% less, not addictive enough. This is calculated, tested, refined. Your cravings are not accidental. They are engineered. Texture, the silent weapon. Crunch matters. Creaminess matters. Melt matters. Texture tells the brain how much energy food contains. Ultra-processed foods dissolve quickly. This tricks the brain into thinking, I haven't eaten enough yet. So you keep going. Children and the developing brain. Children's brains are especially vulnerable. The reward systems are still forming. Their impulse control is underdeveloped. Ultra-processed foods shape neural pathways early. Preferences formed in childhood can last a lifetime. This is not just diet. This is brain development, memory, and habit loops. Every time you eat ultra-processed food, your brain creates a loop. Stress leads to craving. Craving leads to eating. Eating leads to dopamine. The loop repeats. Food is no longer about hunger. It is about emotion. Why willpower fails. People blame themselves. I have no discipline. I lack control. But willpower lives in a prefrontal cortex. Ultra-processed foods weaken this region over time. You are fighting biology with belief. And biology always wins. Metabolic confusion. Ultra-processed foods confuse hunger hormones, leptin, ghrelin, insulin. Signals become distorted. The brain no longer knows when to stop. This is not overeating. This is miscommunication. Weight gain is a symptom. Weight gain is not the cause. It is the result. The real damage happens silently. Brain rewiring, hormonal disruption, loss of natural appetite control. Why? This is a public health crisis. This is not a personal failure. This is a systemic problem. Ultra-processed foods dominate shelves. They are cheap, they are aggressive, they are everywhere. The environment shapes behavior, and the environment is broken. The question, if food can reprogram the brain, can the brain be retrained? And if so, what would real recovery look like? Can the brain recover? The human brain is not fragile. It is plastic, adaptable, capable of change. The same brain that was rewired can be rewired again, but recovery follows biological rule. Neuroplasticity explained. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to change through repetition. What you eat repeatedly, your brain learns to expect. Ultra-processed food teaches fast pleasure. Real food teaches safety and nourishment. Why quitting feels painful. Removing ultra-processed food often feels worse first. Headaches, irritability, fatigue, cravings. This is withdrawal, not weakness. The dopamine reset. A dopamine reset is balance, not deprivation. When spikes normalize, sensitivity returns. Natural sweetness returns. True hunger returns. Food stops shouting and starts whispering. Real food versus fake food. Real food has limits. You get full. You stop. You move on. Ultra-processed food has no brakes. It bypasses chewing, bypasses digestion, bypasses satiety. This is why apples do not cause addiction, and chips do. The role of fiber. Fiber is not just digestion, it slows glucose release, stabilizes dopamine, feeds gut bacteria. Ultra-processed foods remove fiber for one reason. Fiber reduces consumption. A food that fills you does not maximize profit. The gut-brain connection. Your gut is not just a digestive tube. It is a second brain. Trillions of bacteria communicate with your nervous system. They influence mood, cravings, anxiety, impulse control. Ultra-processed foods damage this ecosystem, and the brain feels it. Why stress makes it worse? When stressed, the brain seeks fast relief. Ultra-processed foods promise comfort, but deliver dependency. This is why modern life and modern food are a dangerous combination. Marketing versus biology. Food companies do not sell nutrition. They sell emotion, convenience, belonging. Bright colors, happy memories, comfort cues. Marketing speaks to the brain, not the body. Why early exposure matters. Early exposure shapes lifetime preference. A child raised on ultra-processed food does not choose it later. The brain already decided. This is why prevention matters more than treatment. Breaking the loop. Breaking the cycle requires one thing: environment change, not motivation, not discipline. Remove triggers, replace defaults, reduce friction. The brain follows paths of least resistance. Why diets fail. Diets focus on restriction. The brain responds with rebellion. Education works better than control. Understanding beats punishment. When the brain understands the threat, it protects itself. Small changes, big signals. One real breakfast. One whole food lunch. One slow meal. Each sends a signal, we are safe. The brain listens. The timeline of recovery. Days, cravings peak. Weeks, taste sensitivity returns. Months, appetite stabilizes. Years, neural patterns normalize. This is not instant, but it is real. A different future. Imagine a future where food supports the brain, not controls it, not manipulates it. This future begins with awareness, because once you see the system, it loses its power. The industry does know. This is not ignorance. Food corporations know exactly what they're doing. Internal documents, focus group testing, brain scan research. They study how long a crunch should last, how fast sugar should hit the bloodstream, how flavor should linger just long enough to make you want more. This is neuroscience applied for profit, not for health, not for longevity, not for children. Why these foods are everywhere. Ultra-processed foods dominate shelves for one reason: they last forever. They travel easily. They cost less to manufacture. Real food spoils. Real food requires care. Real food does not scale infinitely, so the system favors what survives longest, not what nourishes best. Poverty and ultra-processed food. This crisis is not evenly distributed. Low-income communities are flooded with ultra-processed food. Fresh food is expensive. Time is limited. Options are restricted. This is not personal failure. This is structural pressure. The brain adapts to what is available. Why education matters more than rules. Banning food does not work. Shaming does not work. Understanding does. When people understand how their brain is being manipulated, they resist instinctively. Knowledge restores agency. What real food does to the brain. Real food does something radical. It stabilizes blood sugar. It quiets dopamine spikes. It rebuilds trust between body and brain. Hunger becomes clear. Fullness becomes reliable. Cravings lose their grip. This is how humans evolved to eat. You do not need perfection. Recovery does not require perfection. It requires direction. Every real meal matters. Every reduction helps. Every pause counts. The brain measures patterns, not single moments. How long change takes. The brain heals slowly, but it heals consistently. What feels impossible today feels natural later. Cravings weaken, taste sharpens, control returns. Time is not your enemy. It is your ally. Food as information. Food is not just fuel. It is information. Every bite sends a message. Scarcity or safety. Chaos or stability. Threat or nourishment. Ultra-processed food sends noise. Real food sends clarity. Reclaiming autonomy. Freedom is not resisting cravings. Freedom is not having them dominate you. When the brain is balanced, choice becomes effortless. This is autonomy, not controls. What this means for future generations. Children inherit environments. If the environment changes, so does their future. Less manipulation, less dependency, more clarity. This is not about nostalgia. It is about survival. Why this story matters. This story is not about food. It is about choice, about agency, about understanding the forces that shape behavior invisibly. Once revealed, they lose power. The quiet revolution. No protests are needed, no extreme rules, just awareness, just education, just small daily decisions. Revolutions do not always roar. Sometimes they whisper. You were never broken. You were not weak. You were not lazy. You were not failing. Your brain responded exactly as it was designed to. Now that you know the truth, you can respond differently. The future of food awareness. The future will not be built by corporations alone. It will be built by informed individuals. Every informed choice reshapes demand, and demand reshapes system. Final word, powerful end. Ultra-processed foods hijack the brain by exploiting biology. But biology is not a prison. The brain can learn. The brain can heal. The brain can choose again. And once it does, food stops controlling you and starts supporting you.